My name's Dick Harpuglia, and I represent the man you know as Alex, right?
Yes, sir. I met you before.
I don't think we've ever met before, have we?
Yes, we have.
We've met?
Yes, sir, at the house. Maggie's funeral.
Oh, at Maggie's funeral, yes. I apologize. A lot of people there that day.
Yes, sir.
Alex has always referred to you when people ask who you are as his friend, correct?
That is correct.
Never called you his housekeeper, right?
That is correct.
He always, when he introduced you, as his friend.
That is correct.
Now, you've also, I think in multiple interviews with Sweat and other folks, described, I think the words were, Maggie was his all. Isn't that what you told Sweat?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean, Maggie was his all?
He adored her. He loved her. He adored her.
Worshipped her. I mean, just treated her as somebody he adored, correct?
Exactly, yes, sir.
Now, I think they also asked you if you ever saw them have any arguments. And
No, I did not ask that. Objection.
You restate the question, please.
Sweat asked you if you'd ever seen them have any arguments. I don't quite understand the basic objection you're on.
You restated the question. You may respond.
What was the question again, sir?
Did you ever see them have any arguments?
I never saw them have arguments. It was just minor disagreement because of the remodeling.
And I think you cite specifically when you said they had arguments, it was about the paint colors, for instance.
One of them was Maggie was set on getting a certain white, and Alec was saying just get whatever white, basically. You know, he didn't care. She wanted a specific white, and he just didn't care.
But you never saw them have any violent arguments or argue about money or argue about relationships. It was all the minor things that most couples go through, picking paint colors and those kinds of things. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. To some, they would disagree on. It wasn't that they disagreed. The only thing that I remember Maggie saying was that she just wanted him to sit still and listen to her for at least 10 minutes at a time because he was always on the go.
Is that an uncommon complaint between husbands and wives or wives to husbands? I want you to just listen to me. Is that right?
She would get frustrated because of that.
Right. You ever tell your husband that? Just listen to me. Sit, please.
All the time.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about the morning of the 7th.
Yes, sir.
And then the morning of the 8th, because I understand you left before Paul, Maggie, or Alec was on the Moselle property on the 7th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we're going to talk about those texts in just a minute between you and Maggie, but you fixed some dinner for them.
I did.
And did you set a table, or did they have to go get their own plates and put them out?
No, I left the food on the stove.
Right. And normally the next day, the pots would still be on the stove, right?
Yes, sir.
Would they clean up their plates or leave those in the sink, or how would that go?
Sometimes the plates would be in the living room. There was no plates in the living room. They were in the sink.
Okay. But when you got there on the morning of the 8th?
The plates were in the sink. They were not in the living room.
Okay. Now, are you aware of how many people were in there, how many friends, law partners, his sister, who was in the Moselle house on the night of the 7th?
No, sir.
Okay. If I told you there were 12 to 15 of them, would that surprise you? I mean, Maggie and Paul had just been killed. Was he very close with his law partners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. His sister, Lynn? Do you know Lynn?
I met her at when Maggie passed.
Okay. And would it surprise you to know that the...
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
I'm just going to ask her if she knows, Your Honor.
Well, the objection is sustained. You cannot testify.
Well, let me make it more general than this. Do you know if anyone that evening of those people moved the food from the stovetop to the refrigerator?
I don't know.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the room, the bedroom, and, well, let me ask you this. Let's back off just a little bit. You drove over from his mother and father's house, correct?
That is correct.
That morning, the 8th, to Moselle, right?
Yes, sir.
And instead of coming your normal way, which would have been the entrance by the kennels, where there, did you see all the police down there?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. You drove up to the main entrance that would go straight up to the house, or if you took a right on that road, you'd end up back down at the kennels, right?
Yes, sir.
And you came up that, were there police around the house up there?
Not around the house.
Okay. Did anyone question whether you should go into the house or not?
No, sir.
Was there anybody in the house other than you?
No, sir, it was me.
So did you find it strange that this was a crime scene?
Objection.
Need to hear the question.
I'm sorry.
The question would be, did you find it strange there was no law enforcement present at the house that morning?
The question.
Go ahead.
It wasn't strange because there was law enforcement all over on the kennel side. It wasn't strange that they allowed me to go into the house.
Well, let me ask you this. Did anybody from SLED show up while you were there that morning?
I believe there was an officer. I do not recall the officers.
Do you remember somebody coming in to search the house while you were there?
There were several agents that came through.
Right. But you'd been there for a while before they got there?
Yes, sir.
Did they ask you about clothes you'd found, or did they ask you about anything that you found out of the ordinary, anything like that?
I didn't ask any questions. They didn't ask me. They just went about doing what they were doing.
And were they going from room to room? Were they looking for things under the bed? Do you remember?
It appeared that that's what they were doing, sir.
Okay. But that was after you got there and picked up the bathroom, picked up the towel?
No, sir. I hadn't picked up anything at that point because I was still in shock and I was still trying to process what had just happened to my friend.
So they would have seen the khaki pants on the floor.
Objection.
Did they go into the bathroom?
I couldn't tell you, sir.
Okay.
The laundry room sits on the other side of the house, and I had to take some time to process what had happened to Maggie and Paul. I know I saw agents that went upstairs to Paul's room. I saw them walking through the house, sir, but I don't know what they took, what they didn't took. All I can tell you is what I saw when I got there.
Okay. While they're there or after they left, is that when you went into the bathroom and saw the khaki pants, somebody taking a shower, there was a towel on the floor, khaki pants on the floor? Was that before or after they left?
Yeah, after.
Okay. So all those items would have been there for those folks to see, as far as you know. Yes, sir. Now let me ask you a couple of things and about what you saw. They keep showing you this picture by the tree of Alex, and he appears to have on a khaki pair of pants in that picture, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure he had a number of different pairs of khaki pants, but were those khaki pants similar to the ones he has on in the picture? Could they be the same ones?
They could be, but he had several.
Right. And in terms of somebody had taken a shower, it looked like there was water on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Now, did Alex take a number of showers every day? Was he a prolific shower taker?
Not that I'm aware. He would get up in the morning, take a shower, and go to work.
But did he take showers other times during the day?
I wasn't there in the evening hours, so I don't know.
Okay. So, but it wasn't unusual for when you got there to find a towel on the floor and water on the floor from him having taken a shower?
That wasn't unusual, no.
Okay. And I think that when you were asked about a shirt, and we can pull this if you want to go back to, whether there was a shirt there also, you said you couldn't remember. Is that correct?
With regard to?
Whether there was a shirt with the khakis on the floor. You said, I couldn't remember.
I could not remember whether there was a shirt with a khaki pants. All I remember is a white damp towel sitting there.
Okay, and the khaki pants.
Yes, sir.
But you don't remember whether, and I think you told the grand jury, I don't remember whether it was a shirt or wasn't a shirt, correct?
That is correct.
And that's today. You can't tell this jury there wasn't a shirt on the floor. You can tell them you don't remember, correct?
What was your question?
You can't tell this jury there wasn't a shirt on the floor because you can't remember whether there was a shirt on the floor or not. Isn't that what you told the grand jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we know there's a pair of khaki pants. There may have been a shirt. And those shoes, well, let me ask you this. You know, on the night of the 7th,
Yes, sir.
Alec had left, correct? He wasn't there when you got there the next morning.
No, sir, he wasn't there.
Okay. As a matter of fact, he never spent another night at Moselle that
No,
you
sir, he did not.
She knows, Your Honor.
You can answer if you know whether or not he's ever spent another night there.
After the murders, did he ever spend another night at Moselle, to your knowledge?
He did not.
So when he left that night, on the night of the 7th, and went to his mother and father's house, you don't know what clothes he took with him, what shoes he was wearing? You have no idea, correct?
That is correct.
And were you aware that SWED had confiscated the clothes that he had on?
At that moment, I didn't.
Okay. Well, you are now.
Yes, sir, I do know that.
Okay. A white T-shirt, pair of shorts that he showed you, and whatever shoes he had on, some sneakers, right?
I didn't see the sneakers, but I saw the clothing items.
Okay. And so he had to put on, if they did that, other clothes to go over to his mother's house, correct?
Objection.
Would it stand to reason he'd have to put on other clothes or go in his underwear?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. Do you know what he wore over to his mother's house?
No, sir.
Do you know whether he wore those shoes?
No, sir.
You don't know. So
Your
when,
Honor, objection to. Objection.
Basis for the objection.
I don't
To
know.
which question?
To that last one, shoes. I don't know what specificity he says to those shoes. I don't know what he's.
I'm sorry, the shoes that you say you saw in the Snapchat photo, you say you never saw again, right?
That is correct.
Okay, you don't know whether he wore those shoes the night of the 7th over to his mama's house, do you?
I don't know that. I wasn't
Okay.
there.
You don't know what he wore over there, correct?
That's correct. I wasn't there.
He may have even worn that shirt that you said you never saw again, correct?
Objection.
Objection's overruled.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if somebody alleged that those khaki pants was what Alex was wearing the night of
I'm
the...
going to object.
I need to hear the question.
I can't finish the question. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Let me state this. If somebody were to say that Alex Murdaugh, as ridiculous as it sounds, was wearing those khaki pants when he...
Objection.
Objection sustained.
Okay. Let me put it this way. Did you see any blood on those khaki pants?
No, sir.
He washed them, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you put anything on them to get blood stains out? I mean, would there be...
Are you been saying that I removed bloodstains off of khaki pants?
I'm asking you rhetorically. I'm asking you, did you see any blood stains?
There appeared to be no bloodstains on those
Okay,
pants.
okay. And in the bathroom, did you see any bloody footprints?
I did not.
Did you see any blood on that towel?
No, sir.
Did you see anything indicating to you there'd been anybody wearing bloody shoes or washing blood off, or anything that would indicate that somebody, after a murder, had gone back to that room, changed clothes, covered in blood, took a shower and changed
Objection.
clothes? Did you see anything that would indicate that?
Objection's overruled.
Go ahead.
This is the first time that I have ever been in a situation where somebody was murdered.
Right.
I didn't know, as far as what you're asking me, if there was anything bloody in there. No, it did not appear to be anything bloody in there.
Did you clean the shower that day?
Yes, sir, I rinsed it off.
You rinsed it off. Nobody told you not to rinse off the shower?
No, sir.
Okay. And again, nobody from SWED, as that group went through, asked you, you know, did you see bloody footprints? Did you see any evidence that there was anything bloody in that bathroom? Did anybody ask you that?
No, sir.
And your testimony is those khaki pants were there after SWED left.
Yes, sir.
And maybe even a shirt you can't remember.
Yes, sir. Possibly a T-shirt, but I did not see it. I don't remember.
Okay, you don't remember what kind of shirt, if there was a shirt.
Not objection.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you. Do you remember, you know, I'm doing like Mr. Meadows now, I forgot the question. But let me see if I can get this back on track. These interruptions are getting me a little askew. So I think you've already asked and answered that. Now, let me talk a little bit about the cell phone service in Moselle. You had a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
And the servicer was who? What was it, Verizon? Or do you know?
The cell phone carrier is Verizon, yes, sir.
Okay. And so did you ever have any trouble getting a signal anywhere on the Moselle property? Up at the house, down at the dog kennels? Was it sporadic?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. And sometimes you'd be talking to somebody and they'd drop off. The call would end, not because you ended it, but because the service was bad.
Yes, sir. If you were moving around in the house, certain areas, you could not get a signal.
What about down from the kennels?
It was touch and go in the kennels. You really, once you got signal, you better stay where you were at, because if you moved, you were going to lose your signal.
Okay. So it would not be unusual at the kennels, if you did move, that if you were having a conversation or getting text or trying to answer a text, you wouldn't be able to do so.
Like I said, it depends on where you kind of knew the areas. At least for me, I already knew that if I had to make a call or send a text, I would walk out the kitchen door straight to the edge of the corner right there on the porch and make my call and not move. If not, I would lose the call, or I would not be able to make my call.
What about at the kennels?
At the kennels, like I said, it depends on the area where you were at. And once, basically everybody, we all kind of knew that if you moved out of a certain area and went to another, you were going to lose signal.
Okay. Now, at the kennel, do you know what area you could get a call? Keep that. I mean, you just talked about up at the house. There was a sweet spot, if you'll pardon
Yes, sir.
my language. Was there a sweet spot down at the kennel, or do you know?
I'm not sure at the kennels, but I do remember Mr. CB saying that the signal out there was horrible for making calls or getting calls.
Or sending texts or getting texts?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about this conversation in August of 21, after the murders.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alec came over and was inquiring of you what shirt he had on that day, correct?
It didn't feel like he was inquiring. It felt more like he was trying to convince me of the shirt that he was wearing.
Did he tell you that he just finished?
Objection.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking if he told you something.
Objection.
Cross-examination.
Not objecting to hearsay for the record.
I need to hear the question, number one. Number two is cross-examination. Go ahead.
Did he tell you that he just finished
Objection.
meeting? Do you want me to pose the question, Your Honor, or not?
All right. I'm going to send the jury to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case. Be seated. Okay, what is the question?
Just wait 1 second, Your Honor. Let me see if I can get back on track. When you were talking with him in the little house in August, as we were talking about a moment ago, and he was talking about the shirt, did he tell you that he had just been interviewed by Swed, who'd shown him the Snapchat photo, and he was attempting to figure out what he was wearing that day? I mean, it's in a photo. Did he tell you that?
What's the specific question?
Did he, when he asked you the question about the shirt, did he tell you he'd just come from being interviewed by Swed?
No, sir, he didn't tell me that.
And what is the objection?
Your Honor, it's respectfully, it's hearsay. Statement is hearsay that if he wants to do that, he can take the stand and do it. He's trying to offer the defendant's statement without him taking the stand. It's offered for the truth of the matter asserted. That's my objection.
All right, and the response.
My response is, if you can't ask witnesses about what the defendant said to them, they're going to have a rough road to hoe going forward, because it's a statement by the party opponent, if you will. I think they argued earlier on when we objected to one. It's not hearsay. There's an exception to hearsay by a statement by one of the parties. It's Alex.
Statement by the party opponent, being a statement by the party opponent, the defendant.
Mr. Murdaugh's statement to this woman.
Others?
This matters. I've been doing this 35 years. He's on trial.
We know that.
But I'm just saying it's not a party opponent. He's trying to get in a statement from the defendant. Statements against interest, that the state, there is a difference between the state asking what the defendant said and the defense. And if they hadn't objected to some, they thought that's their prerogative. But they're trying to offer the defendant's statement in evidence without him taking the stand. I respectfully think that's objectable as hearsay. He's the defendant on trial. They're offering it for the self-serving hearsay. They're offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. And I respectfully think that he's got to take the stand and get that information in.
And Your Honor, maybe I'll make this simple. What would your answer to that question be now? Did he tell you about talking to Swed that day?
No, sir, he did not.
Okay.
Your Honor, 801D2 allows us to ask the question and not the defense.
I don't understand what the self-serving is. She didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about Swed.
Your Honor, he could get his whole case through witnesses and he wouldn't have to take the stand.
Absolutely.
And that's not
You've got
appropriate.
a Fifth Amendment right to not take the stand.
That's right, but you can't.
I think Brick will let you all debate the issue between the two.
I apologize, Your Honor.
I get that.
All right.